Yeah, I mean, I think it brings up a good point. You always got to be, you got to keep learning and and challenging yourself at the start. Like everything's brand new, and then when
Right.
you've been in the industry for a number of years, it's small tweaks that you end
Yeah.
up learning from different places and different courses and etc. But you always got to keep learning and expanding your thoughts. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know it all, but you're always kind of learning.
Well, I would add something just to that really quick. I think that if you're a trainer on the call, or if you have hopes of being a trainer someday, I think that people get too dogmatic too with their viewpoints, or they just get too lined up with like somebody else's philosophy, and they don't allow that to build on their own experiences and knowledge. And like a simple example of this is like I remember I first went and worked with Pavel Tsatsulin with the RKC crew back in 2005, like almost 10 years ago. And for a good year or two, it was like, this is the way it's done. There's no other way, you know. And I shortchanged the results I was able to get, and I was able to get with people I work with because I was so into this one philosophy, not realizing that people are all different. And when you have clients come with you, like I remember at one point I was training a lady who wanted to run a marathon, and I'm like, well, I don't really want to train you for that, but like if that's what you really want to do, I'm going to make sure you do it perfectly. I was training another lady for weight loss, and then I had another guy come in, and I said, what's your goal? I said, I just want to look jacked, bro. So you can't just use, kettlebell training on all three of those people and expect it to work. You have to learn how to teach someone how the proper fundamental mechanics of running, and you have to train them through each step, and you have to work on their mobility, their core strength. For the weight loss, you have to work on their diet, their psychology. You have to work on their high intensity training, doing enough resistance training to build a little bit of lean muscle mass. For getting big, you got to lift heavy, you got to get strong. So all these things were different components that I needed to help people facilitate their goals, but none of them would allow for just one dogmatic viewpoint. I had to expand my mind to the point where I understood bodybuilding, I understood fat loss, I understood athletic training, I understood running, and so on and so forth. And I encourage people to go work with people who are experts in these fields so they can actually broaden their horizons and be able to coach people towards their goals, their clients' goals, not their personal trainer goals. If that
Yeah.
makes sense.
So then looking at, training at a high intensity, what would be like your number one tip when it comes to someone training at high intensity and definitely staying injury free at that high intensity?
Well, I mean, we just talked about trainers need to be better at teaching good form, and we talked about finding your perfect level of movement capacity. I think that a hybrid of that's really the key. I mean, the hard part is when people are listening to this, they're probably scratching their heads like, where do I fall on the spectrum? What trainers do you trust? Who do I believe? To me, I think the thing is starting with the basics, right? So if we look at, just a typical exercise routine, let's call it body transformation. So burn some fat, build some muscle, kind of your general, I just want to look better naked kind of crowd, right? You want to use the basic motor patterns, and you want to find out where you fall on those motor patterns, and that will allow you to use those exercises with intensity safely. So I'll give you a few examples. I like to break things down into a few simple examples, right? You have your upper body push and your upper body pull, right? And you can change those into horizontal and vertical planes, but let's keep it simple and just call it a push and a pull for the upper body, right? Then from there, you have core stability, right? And then you have core compression. And then for the lower body, you have a hip hinge, which is mainly a posterior dominant or a backside dominant exercise. And then you have a knee hinge, which is more of like a squat type exercise, right? And if you just divide those six things in to movement categories, right? And I'll give you a few examples, right? So let's go for the push. Let's do like a push up. Let's say you're a total beginner. You start with a wall push up. You're just pushing up against the wall. Anybody should be able to do that. You get good at that, then you move to a kneeling push up. You get good at that, then you move to a regular push up. Once you get good at that, then you move to a clapping push up. Once you get good at that, you can go clapping on boxes or jumping from side to side. The point is, imagine if you can only do a wall push up right now, the way your back's your arms and maybe your chest and stuff. How does that look right now? Just being able to do a wall push up. Well, it's probably not very much tone, probably not looking that good. Now imagine you can do a set of 15 clap push ups, all explosive and powerful with perfect form. Well, how's the back of your arms, your chest, everything else going to look then, right? It's going to look pretty dang good. You can't do that without developing muscle, without developing muscle tone, without causing that to burn body fat. So these are great exercises that you can do to take yourself from basic things all the way to more complex things. For like a squat, here's a great example. You could do a two-legged squat. I like to even start a little bit more simple with a face the wall squat, where you're standing about 6 inches from the wall and you're facing the wall, because that automatically fixes a lot of people's squat issues. It's a great exercise. Then from there, taking them to a regular bodyweight squat where we increase the depth a little bit. And then from there, maybe taking them into a jump squat if they have good squat mechanics. And then you could add like a light dumbbell with the jump squat. And if you've never done a minute straight of goblet jump squats with like, you know, a weight in front of you, dude, that is a rough exercise. It's really challenging. And it doesn't end there. From there, we can just take you down to doing a partial one-legged squat, then a full one-legged squat, and then a one-legged jump squat, and then a one-legged goblet jump squat. I mean, it goes endless to the point where you're looking at stuff and you're like, this is impossible. But the point isn't you have to be able to do a one-legged jump squat with 50 pounds. The point is you have to identify where you're at now and try to take that next baby step. And then once you get there, try to take that next baby step. It's really more about those tiny steps that get you to your end goal, not the big giant steps of thinking about, I have to do all this, all this, all this. That's where my stuff comes in really successful with people, is we paint the picture at the end. Here's what you should be able to do, and here's what your body will look like if you're able to do these things. But I don't want you to think about that. I want you to think about just this. You're here, you can do wall push-ups. The next step is our goal is to do a kneeling push-up, chest to ground. Right? And that takes things and it makes it a lot easier for people to comprehend. It sets up these minor goals that really gets people motivated to achieve these goals and then keep moving forward as they go through their training journey. Because a lot of people, let's be honest, they quit because they don't achieve any of their goals. Because they set these lofty goals, they don't segment it, and then they just quit. So anyways, to answer your question, people need to find where they're at on that spectrum, like, and do the appropriate exercises that they feel they can do with perfect form. And a simple thing is, if it hurts, you're not doing it with perfect form. If it feels funky, you're probably not doing it with perfect form, right? I mean, go seek out a qualified coach or get a great program that identifies this stuff, talks about like those little fine points we were talking about, and measure yourself against it. Have your spouse, your friend, whoever, videotape you and measure yourself against like a model on the screen. I mean, it's really not that challenging to see where you have some movement defects. You know, I'll never forget, I was in San Jose State University, and there was this guy, and he was a football player. He was squatting like 550 pounds. But every time he'd stand up, he had this little crooked lean to him like this, right? And that's fine if you're 21 years old and you're a college football player, but I guarantee that guy had a dysfunction in his midsection, and that was going to end his football career and not allow him to keep moving forward with it. So to me, that killed me because I knew that we had somebody with great strength, great potential, but the reality was he wanted to push the intensity before he had the form first, and that's always a recipe for disaster.
And then moving people from, one exercise to the next exercise, the next exercise. What is your kind of criteria when it comes to progressing? The wall push-ups are way too easy, so we're going to the floor and doing push-up from the knees.
That's a great question. So I think it's kind of conditional. I mean, I have a system called CT50 that teaches you the simple way to do that, where you basically test yourself against a challenge workout. If you get a certain amount of reps, you're ready to go to the next level of movements. If you don't, then you cycle back through the workouts. That was the easiest way I've been able to design a system that people could use at home to fall into these progressions and move themselves through it. If you've never seen that before, you can check that out. If you're just listening to this and you're thinking to yourself, how do I move from one step to the next? A general guideline is if you can do kind of right towards the edge of that glycolytic pathway. So if you're doing somewhere in that 15 rep range, 20 rep range, or let's say you're doing about 90 seconds or so of an exercise and you're doing it with good form, there's a good chance that you could benefit by moving yourself up in complexity. So that's kind of a general guideline. If you can do 15 or so seconds or 15 or so reps, 90 seconds or so for one perfect set, there's a good chance that you've kind of mastered that exercise. Of course, the thing is, Rick, you can take it out as far as you want. Like I remember hearing this Navy SEAL held a plank for like 17 hours. I have no idea what it was, but it was some ungodly amount of time. And I'm like, well, why did he hold a plank for 17 hours when he could have held, like a one arm, one leg Swiss ball plank while he's rotating that arm for like 30 seconds each side and gotten the same result from it and saved, 16 hours, 58 minutes or whatever, you know what I mean? So anyway, the point being, I think at some point everybody's got to take their stuff to the next level. And, about 90 seconds is a good place to start. And of course it has to be with perfect form.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of the end of my question. Do you have any last points or tips to leave people with?
No, I mean, guys, get the thought of all this stuff like the Tabata studies and this and that. There's so much inundating people with knowledge that I'm not really sure is that useful to people. And like I shared in the beginning of this, I'm kind of starting to preach the message more and more. Like it's all about adaptation, right? It's really, really, really that simple. If you eat a bunch of shitty food and your body's going to adapt by storing it as body fat, right? If you jog for a long period of time, it's going to get better at jogging. If you do high intensity workouts and you do them with good form, your body's going to end up looking like people who can do high intensity workouts, provided that you work from where you're at to what they're currently capable of doing. It's essentially forced adaptation, Rick. And like, I'll give you an example. I recently had a client of ours who's been using the program I talked about, CT50, for about a year now. And she's just gone through the system, following it exactly as I laid out, with taking you from the basic stuff to more advanced stuff. And she said the basic workouts when she first started doing it, she was like, oh, this is still too hard. Like, I was just remember like 9 minutes of just pure hell, you know? But now she's on like level 3 or 4, and she's lost 71 pounds, looks like a completely transformed person. And you know what diet changes she made? She made these diet changes. Eat more protein, drink more water, eat more veggies. That's it. She didn't have to follow some fancy diet. People always say diet first, exercise second. I think it's just adaptation, 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 adaptation. And if you can move like an athlete or work up to moving similar to an athlete, your body will start to look like that. And so that's what I think people really need to focus on. It's just identifying where you're at, identifying that beautiful end goal that would just excite you beyond all hell if you reached it, right? And then taking it apart into small chunks and just taking those chunks one step at a time. It's like anything in life. Just take it apart into small chunks, achieve one small step at a time, and you'll get there.
Awesome. Awesome, Tyler. Now, where can people get more information about you, Tyler, and the whole Garage Warrior?
Yeah. You can go to garagewarrior.com, check it out. I've been painfully inactive on my blog lately, but Facebook page is rocking and rolling. We're getting ready to do a lot of cool stuff with our YouTube channel, and hopefully if I can hire some more people on my team, we can get the blog rolling really fast. It's hard to do everything like I'm always trying to do all at the same time. And if you guys want to check out the CT50 system, I got my CT50 shirt right now. It's like a done-for-you, follow-along, progressive movement workout system. Really high quality. Spent a lot of money making sure it was the highest quality and everything. So you can check it out, ct50.com, ct-50.com, and Rick can probably post a link below the show too.
Awesome. So thank you very much, Tyler, for your time and sharing more with the Exercises for Injuries community. And this is Rick Cassells from exercisesforinjuries.com. Thanking you very much for joining us on this interview. Make sure to swing by exercisesforinjuries.com. Enter in your injury or pain. There's a good chance that I have an article, video, or an interview that will help you overcome your injury or pain. Secondly, if you're watching this on YouTube, head up above, hit subscribe. What that'll do is you'll get videos like this where I do interviews with people that I know, or videos on how to overcome and avoid injury and pain. Thirdly, if you head down below, hit like, and leave myself or Tyler a question. So this is Rick Cassells from exercisesforinjuries.com saying take care and goodbye.